How's it going, everybody? My name's Andrew Muse. I'm a professional full-time content creator and athlete. I've been creating content full-time for the last 5+ years, and I've learned a lot as far as the gear to use, the way to organize things, and how to just operate efficiently. So I want to go through all of those things with you today. So let's start off with the cameras. So this is a Canon 5D Mark IV. I love this thing. It is just a brick. It is so solid. It's pretty heavy, but it can withstand quite a bit. It's really great in the elements. I bring it snowboarding and skiing and climbing, all these different things, and it seems to just hold up really well. They're really hard to kill. Not that that's the goal, but this thing is a beast. Also, the images it creates are just stunning. The color, the crispness, it's just a really beautiful camera, and it's super solid. As far as video, I shoot on the GH5, which is actually on my tripod right now shooting. This camera is awesome. It's a micro four thirds sensor, but it shoots really nice 10-bit 4K, up to 124 frames a second at 1080. So the slow motion is super cinematic. The color is really nice. I went with the GH5S because it does shoot a little bit higher frame rate over the GH5. The GH5 is a great option as well. I also shoot with the GoPro Hero 7 Black. This thing is badass. It's the new in-body stabilization is exceptional. If you're walking, moving slowly, super careful, you definitely don't need a gimbal. I still think if you're doing something fast-paced like snowboarding or running or stairs, a gimbal will give you a smoother end result. But this thing is just a beast. It shoots up to 240 frames a second at 1080 as well, shoots 4K. Whenever I'm shooting POV, I like to shoot at 4:3, which is just sort of a taller aspect ratio. So that way, in case I'm not perfectly aiming at the action, I can take whatever part of the frame that I want. So that's a little GoPro pro tip. And then as far as a drone goes, I have the DJI Mavic Pro 2. This thing is incredible. I love the DJI Mavic 1. The 2 just shoots a little bit higher quality. As far as the range of drones out there, especially the ones that DJI makes, it seems like they've kind of got the market cornered. Their price point, their quality. I've had a lot of drones and I've had a lot of drones with issues. These seem to have the least amount of issues. This is sort of the best deal for me as far as high production quality, best resolution I can get, and payload size. It's a little bit bigger than their Spark in the Air, but definitely much more manageable than the Phantom or especially the Inspire. This will fit in my pack with my GH5 and my Canon and 2 GoPros, and I've got a really high-end production setup. So love this thing, dollar for dollar, probably one of the best tools I own. Really, really like it. Get insurance, they're easy to crash, trust me, I know. Another really cool tool is the GoPro Fusion. This is a 360 camera, omnidirectional, so it's not just 360 in one direction. You can shoot every single angle. It's really wild, and when shooting with a selfie stick, it disappears. There's some really cool things you can do with this camera. It seems that the 360 technology is pretty much there. I think there's a lot of room for improvement, but it's definitely a viable tool, and you can get some really new, unique, exciting angles and capture some things that you may have missed if you're just shooting in one direction and something really cool happens behind you. Recently I was snowboarding and I almost hit a bird, and this thing came out of the snow, and it was cool. I could slow down the footage and find exactly where this bird emerged from the snow and like follow it through. It was pretty cool. If I was just shooting with a GoPro selfie, I would have only had the one angle of it flying at me. This, I was able to see it like explode from the snow. So I think these have a spot in any content creator's kit. And then let's dive into lenses. So right now I have the 24-70 on my Canon 5D IV. This is the 2.8, has a really nice depth of field, takes just really beautiful images. It's a pretty heavy lens, but again, I'd rather just carry the extra weight and be able to get the best possible content. Carrying a heavy pack just makes you stronger. Then I have the 70-200 2.8 Canon lens. This thing just shoots so beautifully. The zoom on this thing is super nice. You can get some really stunning images. Then we have the 15mm 2.8 Canon lens, which they actually don't make anymore, but this is my favorite Astro Lens. It's kind of all I really use it for, maybe some landscape stuff, but as far as shooting the night sky, this thing does a really great job. My settings typically for shooting the night sky is this lens set to 2.8, 30-second exposure, and ISO around 2500 to 3200. Kind of depends on the camera, depends on the sky, and a few other things, but those are sort of my bread and butter settings. Then we sort of dive into some more of my specialty lenses. This is an 8mm 1.8 that I use for just the GH5. It's a fisheye lens. Don't honestly use this too much. If I'm gonna shoot fisheye, I typically just shoot with the GoPro, but it does have its uses. Maybe not the best investment I've made, but still a nice lens. Again, sort of another specialty lens. I bought this, it's a Rokinon 1.4 24mm. This thing I bought primarily for astrophotography. It's just sort of hard to get the focus just perfect. People seem to love this lens. It just hasn't quite performed the way I like. The 15 seems to do a much better job for the stuff that I like to do, so this usually stays at home. And then I have the Canon x2. This thing's super rad. It turns my 70 to 200 into a 140 to 400. So just being able to get that extra zoom without having to own a 400 lens, which starts getting pretty expensive. You do need to be careful about what your f-stop set to, because it can get a little soft. From what I've seen, it seems like f16 works the best. And then I have this Metabones adapter. This Metabones adapter allows me to use my Canon lenses on the GH5 body. And then on the GH5 right now, I have a 12 to 35, 2.8 I want to say. It's basically the equivalent to a 24 to 70. Let's dive into tripods. I just bought this tripod. I broke my previous travel tripod recently, and I needed something to go to Switzerland, which I just got back from. Such an awesome trip. I'll post some content from that. So I ended up going with the MePhoto Road Trip Carbon. It's been my first carbon fiber tripod, and it's super nice. I really like the head on it, the legs, the feel. It just feels quality, and it did a really great job in Switzerland for me. And then as far as what I use for my video tripod, it's what's on here right now. I have a Manfrotto video tripod with a fluid head. The fluid head is actually really, really important if you're gonna shoot anything long lens video. Being able to track smoothly and just have it look butter smooth. And then I have some gimbals. I have the Xeon Crane 1. This thing has worked really well for me. It's pretty easy to balance. This toggle allows you to do a couple different things. It's been acting kind of funny lately, to be honest, so I might be looking at investing in maybe the Xeon Crane 2 or one of the DJI gimbals, but so far this thing has performed really, really well. I also have the GoPro Karma. This thing is great. It interfaces with the GoPros perfectly. You can start, record, all that stuff. You can change some of the settings. The 7 will take out a ton of shake, but if you're snowboarding or if you're chasing somebody or chasing a dog, this thing will make it look super, super smooth. One thing about traveling for content or just in general for shooting for the day, I like to make sure that I have more than enough batteries and more than enough SD card space. So whenever I'm going on a big trip, I make sure I charge all of my batteries and dump all of my SD cards. I'd rather show up to a trip with plenty of batteries than having to charge everything every night. It can become really tiring and really complicated to keep up with just making sure everything's charged, everything's dumped. So I travel with quite a few extra batteries. I probably try to bring enough to stay charged for about 2/3 of the trip. You know, charging at night when I can, dumping cards at night when I can, but it's just sometimes it's not always possible. This winter I've already been to Norway and Switzerland, and both times I tried to use my power strip and I kicked the breaker in both of my hotel rooms. So you can only really charge one battery at a time. You don't want that to be the bottleneck in your production. Let's throw this all in a backpack. I travel quite a bit. Depends on the project. You know, sometimes I don't want to bring my fluid head tripod. You know, I can't bring everything, so sort of packing efficiently, knowing the gear that you're going to use, leaving home the gear that you don't necessarily need, and trying to you know, if you need to operate fast and light, bring equipment for that. If you're gonna have, you know, a support team, bring all the extra goodies. It just sort of depends on where you want production value to be and how much you really feel like carrying and what's actually feasible as far as setup. The more stuff you bring, the longer it takes to set everything up. So sometimes I fly fast and light, GH5, you know, a couple GoPros in the drone, but other times I'm bringing, you know, gimbals and extra tripods and lighting, et cetera, et cetera. So let's see how all of this packs into a backpack. This is my main pack. It's a big Canon pack. This is sort of, if I'm gonna bring everything, this is what I use. So first things first, Canon 5D2, that goes right there. The GH5 sits in here typically. I've got my big 70 to 200 lens. I keep it in this padded case to keep it nice and happy. That goes right in there. I've got my 15. That has another little padded case. Metabones adapter goes right in there. ×2. I tend to be in the dust in the desert quite a bit, so I think having just a little protection over all of your lenses as they're stored is pretty important. So this is the ×2. That just sneaks its way in there. Mavic, there. Mavic controller, right there. And then I'll take my GoPros in this little compartment. The Fusion, I can throw extra drone batteries, whatever else I need. And then in here, I'll keep my extra SD cards. I'll take my used SD cards, extra batteries. And then this front pouch, I can keep all my bigger batteries. Those go right there. If I have a GoPro that I'm gonna use immediately, that will go right in this top pouch. Another big thing is audio. So I use some lav mics. These things are great. They kill batteries fast. This battery's about to die, so hopefully it doesn't. But it really helps with production value to have good, crisp audio. Another tool I use is the Rode shotgun mic. This thing's super great. And then if I'm gonna record multi-channel, I have the Zoom H4n that will record multiple channels. You can get some nice ambient sounds, all kinds of fun stuff there. Let's dive into some of my more fine-tuned organization. As far as my space goes here, I really like to keep everything separate and organized so I know where it's at and I don't have to spend too much time looking, especially if I'm getting ready to jump on an airplane and go somewhere. I want to have everything I need organized, consolidated, concise. That way I don't show up somewhere without access to a camera store and I've forgotten something super important. If it's all organized, you know where it is, it goes into the pack, you hopefully got everything you need. Then I have these little storage compartments. I try and keep all my batteries and stuff organized, so negative means it needs to be charged, positive means charged. And then I have all of my GoPro stuff up there. More GoPro cases, frames, drone stuff. I've got some ND filters. Audio, it's where I keep all of my microphones. Random cords, random manuals and little pieces of gear that I don't use that often. Micro SD cards, card readers, etc. Velcro straps. ND filter holders. I've got tons of lens caps because I always lose these, so I have extra, at least one of everything that I might need. GoPro stickies, so if I need to mount to a helmet or a car or whatever. I have a bunch of lens wipes. Over here, I have a power strip that's used for charging. It has some USB mounts, so I can just plug in, you know, GoPro charger, whatever it might be. I have the Mavic charger right here, charges all 4 Mavic batteries at once, plus the remote little Mavic bag. These usually live here in their little case. Battery box, only charged batteries go in here, and then another charging station with some extra power banks. So it's taken me many, many years and lots of scary investments to get all of this gear. It's been a progression, I started with a 5D Mark II and a GoPro that I've got from friends used, and as my career has evolved, as I've gotten paid gigs, it's still scary to invest that much money into things, but you know, if you're hard enough working, it will hopefully all come back around and it will be a wise investment. You know, I'm not saying go out and spend 20 grand on a bunch of crazy stuff that you don't know how to use, but just sort of like incrementally build up and your production value will go up as well. You know, so yeah, thank you so much for following along. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer them for you. Also, if you have any other suggestions as to what works better for you, what you think could work better for me, I'm always willing to learn. There's no one right way to do things. This is just what I've found that works for me as far as gear and organization, but I'm always willing to learn and psyched to see what other people are doing. So thank you so much. If you like this video, give me a follow or subscribe or whatever people are doing on the YouTube. You can also follow Kicker and I's adventures on Instagram at Andrew__Muse. That's where we post most of our content. It's the best way to keep up with our adventures. And yeah, thank you so much.